following is a special presentation of the Sports Journey Network. Sports Journey.
Welcome to the Breakdown, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Dujunnea Bland, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Carita Parks. How are you doing, Carita?
I'm doing great. Glad to be back.
It is.
Got some good stuff to talk about today.
Oh, yeah. The news keeps rolling. It's crazy what's going on around the NFL especially. But when you look at and we talk about this NFL, new rule changes. And here we go with the coaches and the incentives for hiring minority coaches. Talking about third round picks for at least a 3-year period, depending upon, I guess, when that particular individual is lost. But they're looking at giving incentives for teams who hire minority coaches and giving compensatory picks to those teams who develop those coaches. What are your thoughts on this initial rule going forward?
Okay, so one thing I want to clarify, because you mentioned something, and this is what I thought I read. So there's draft picks for the team that hires a minority candidate, and also the draft picks for the team that developed.
Okay, see, I didn't understand that either.
No, so that's what so, well, no. I'm asking, is that what you were saying? Because
No, it says that they will be giving compensatory picks to 2 consecutive years if losing a minority coach or executive when they are hired to another team's head coach or GM position. It would be 3 consecutive years if a team were to lose both in one offseason.
But that's for the team that developed the coach,
yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So no, that is how I understood it, but I just wanted to, because the reason I was asking is at one point they were saying they would give draft picks to the team that hired.
I did see that.
Which I didn't like at all. So that's why I wanted to make sure. But in this situation, I still don't see how this is going to help the hiring of minority candidates, because really there's still, if you really look at it, there's still no incentive for teams to hire minority candidates. It's just, it goes back to the other team, But at the end of the day, there's so many qualified minority coaches or minorities that could be GMs or in front office positions. Why do we need incentives?
That's my thought process.
That's my biggest issue. Why do we need incentives? They should be hired because they are good for the job. And we know some of them are good for the job. So these thing, to me, especially in this situation, is just another Band-Aid on the big problem.
Exactly.
It really, really is. Because like I said, I don't see that inspiring a team to hire a well-qualified candidate that's a minority just because the other team will get a kickback.
Exactly. This isn't any different than affirmative action. And I know, did I trigger you? Yeah, I probably did. Because it is like affirmative action. See, we create a whole bunch of rules to make people do the right thing. And I don't know, do you need to look around the entire 2020 to figure out we've been making people play nice in the sandbox forever. And we can't seem to still get it right, even though we're forcing people to. So you either want to or you don't. And these little incentives, cool, that's great. But see, what happens when it's a guy that this particular team doesn't necessarily want to lose? So now we'll do all we can to prevent that minority coach from getting a head coach or GM job because we really don't want to lose him to this team or that team, but you really don't want to see them come back and either coach in your division or GM in your division. They don't want that. And it's a third round pick, compensatory pick on that. Name
Right.
compensatory picks that last with the squad for umpteen amount of years. Yep, I'll wait because I don't think you can name. I don't think you can name 5. I know I can't.
I'm pretty sure I can't either.
So
right. So on top of that, it's not even the best incentive. I just think it's a shame, honestly. I mean, the NFL is one of the biggest organizations in sports, if not the most elite organization in sports. And we're having this diversity issue. There's not a Black candidate or a Hispanic candidate or Asian or, there's not a minority candidate leadership position or in a head coaching position if they're presented with opportunity. But as we've seen, it's like pulling teeth.
It is.
To get that done.
It is. And another thing, too, so you look at Anthony Lynn with the Los Angeles Chargers here. Now, you think he's going to get the benefit of the doubt of this COVID deal? Because I'm listening to talking heads talking about he's on the hot seat. The man's on the hot seat every year. You think a third round compensatory pick ain't going to stop them from canning a guy in his first year? Yeah, I don't think so. So when are we going to change that? Because I got a guy in Adam Gates up there in New York, and I'm sorry, but he should lose his job. Because that song is playing in the background. You about to lose your job. You about to lose your job. Why hasn't he lost his job? But I guarantee you if that was a minority candidate, he'd have been out of here on the first thing flying out of town quick. And they'd have had his bags packed and the boxes packed and a moving truck to take him on down the road.
Yeah, he definitely wouldn't have gotten that many chances. Adam Gase was the first person that came to mind in this conversation. Why does he keep getting jobs? And he's done terrible with the Jets. But guess what? He's going to get another job.
Oh, yeah. He's getting another job. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. I know that some around the league and some media pundits thought it was a good start. I don't feel like it's a good start at all. And maybe it is a good start. Maybe I'm a little too hard, but I just don't see. We've been doing a lot of this stuff, whether it's in normal everyday life or in the workforce, and hasn't changed much. So why are we still going and forcing people? How about we just have people that want to do the right thing and give people a fair shot to get a job? And if those people aren't going to give people a fair shot to get a job, then maybe they shouldn't be in charge. And that's up to ownership and people who hire and fire these folks to make these types of decisions. So how about those folks do what they need to do? But I ain't expecting Jerry Jones to do the right thing.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I mean, this is definitely on the owners. You have to, and funny thing is, in this situation, we got to give Dan Snyder some credit because he shocked us all and hired Ron Rivera, a minority coach, a Black team president, a woman running the radio, media, and content. So it is on the owners to encourage the hiring of minority candidates. And we just don't see that happening. And it just reminds me of the piece I wrote about when Washington hired the president.
Yep.
Why is it taking 100 years to see some progress in this area? It should not take this long. And what's even more frustrating is I'm just going to be blunt. Most of the athletes in the NFL are Black.
Yep.
Why are they not seeing someone like them in these top positions? Someone who can relate to them there's several qualified candidates. So this whole draft pick thing, like I said, I think it's just another Band-Aid on a larger problem. And what they need to do is really deal with the problem. And to your point, if these organizations don't want to do the right thing, that says a lot.
It really does. And you know,
And I can't just say one more thing. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm ranting a little bit, but
no, go ahead.
At the brink of us going into a situation where a Black woman has broken barriers in the highest office of the United States with Kamala Harris, and 2 or 3 days later, the NFL sends out this announcement about comp picks for minority candidates. It's just baffling.
It is, isn't it? It's kind of like that we're going to play the Black national anthem before every game type of deal. I don't care. Just do the right thing,
action.
man.
True, it's about action, not
just do the right thing.
Gestures.
And all this talk, yet we ain't seeing a thing. And I don't expect to see much of anything going forward. We'll see if Eric Bieniemy finally gets a job in 2021. A fair shot at a job.
That, and if he does get a job, I'd be curious to see how Kansas City's offense moves forward. Like, will they still have that same swag?
Amen. Well, we'll see how it goes as they employ this rule. And when we come back, we're going to get into the Washington football team. So, the Washington football team seems to have some kind of hex or something on their quarterbacks. Kyle Allen, who was starting to find a rhythm at quarterback, and I'll be honest, he was starting to find a rhythm, went down with a gruesome ankle dislocation, and in comes Alex Smith. Alex Smith, a game, and it was early in the game too. The thing of it, what I see from this is that what's amazing is he hasn't played in a long time, and he came in and willed this team, put that team on his back, and got them back in the game. I mean, let's not forget they were down 20 points. 20 points in this game. Mm-hmm. And they had an opportunity to win. I know that it was disappointing for fans, but first, do you see a difference, or did you see a difference once Alex got into the game? Because, see, I felt they were people are trying to say, well, this is same old Washington coming out of buys. And I don't agree with that. It looked like a football team that's young and that tried to do too much early instead of playing within the confines of the game. You know what those basics are. Tackling, staying in position, and making sure you're not over pursuing. And they weren't doing any of those things in the beginning. It seems like they were trying to be heroes. Each individual guy was trying to do more than just his job. And they couldn't find a rhythm. Giants came into this game, I thought, were the better team anyway. They were into a rhythm. They were hitting their stride. Jones was doing some things well. He wasn't doing everything well, but he was doing enough to get his team close to win ball games or be in ball games. Did you notice a difference when Alex came into the game versus when Kyle Allen was in the game?
100%. It sparked the offense. I'll say that. It definitely sparked the offense. Alex, clearly he had some crucial mistakes, but if you look beyond that, it opened the field up. We saw Cam Sims with at least a 30-something yard catch, Terry McLaurin with a 68-yard catch. The offense was moving. I mean, and they were scoring because, like you said, he brought the team back from at least 10 to 15 point deficit. Like, they were down quite a bit.
They were.
So I definitely think they played better. They looked better when Alex Smith came in the game, and they performed better. So that was just very interesting. And I don't know if that's a testament to this being a young team and actually needing a veteran at the helm or what. But, you know, we didn't see that much with Kyle Allen. I mean, he was having some success moving the offense, but it just
Wasn't cohesive.
no, it wasn't cohesive. And, same with Dwayne Haskins. He was struggling moving the offense. But, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens this week. But the other thing is, and the reason I say that is because the Giants weren't prepared for Alex Smith to come into the game.
Right.
So I'm wondering what happens when a team knows he's going to play. Will he still play? I say as well because he had 325 yards and the touchdown, but he still made those mistakes. But I'm curious to see what adjustments teams are going to do now that they know Alex Smith is the quarterback. Will he have the same success moving the ball?
Now, offensively, do you feel like this team over this 7 weeks, coming into week 8, do they look like they are improving?
Man, I'm not seeing much. I'm seeing little improvements. Like Antonio Gibson has gotten a lot better. He didn't get a lot of carries last week, but then he had a fumble last week, which he hadn't really been doing.
Right.
So, and then you also saw Isaiah Wright. He had a fumble too. So we hadn't been seeing the rookies turning over the ball. So I don't know what that was about. But gosh, not enough. Not enough, if I'm being honest. If we look at the defensive line is stout. Why are we not seeing the performance that we should be seeing from such a talented defensive line? And then on top of that, the run defense is terrible. We're 31st, I believe, in the league stopping the run.
Yeah.
But our defense is the best commodity on our team. So what is going on there?
Do you think it's schematics?
Yeah, I'm not seeing enough improvement. Not what, especially after that Dallas game, the bye week, we should have seen a better performance.
That's my thought too. That is my thought too. And that's why I was really paying attention to how they would come out of the bye week, especially after that performance against the Dallas Cowboys. And don't get me wrong, it's the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. Trash. But
we didn't expect a repeat domination.
No.
No.
But not to be down 20-3 at the half.
Yeah.
They barely moved the football offensively. They looked to be way out of sync. To go back to the defense, I'm going to go with the secondary isn't doing a good enough job outside of Kendall Fuller. Yeah. Because guys, you have enough to scheme up and get guys loose. But when they can drop back, take 3 steps and get rid of it, and they have open guys all over the place at times, it makes it difficult for your defensive line to really even be effective. Now, they have to do better on that back end. Now, I get it. There's injuries and things like that. I will say, what is his name? Cam Curl. He did a good job recovering. And that's what I want to see out of a guy. He made some mistakes. He got beat badly, but he recovered. Those things are nice spots, but we need more from that backside in order for the front to really come together, because everybody's pointing fingers at Jack Del Rio, but Jack Del Rio is not out there playing. And I've seen Jack and Duval. I've seen Jack with the Raiders. I know what this guy can do, and you can see it up front. I know how you feel about Jack. I know how you feel about Jack, but I believe he can get it done. The back half has to do better. If they can do better, this whole thing can look a little bit better than it has been overall in this inconsistencies of not being able to stop guys on third downs and allowing these big plays at the most inopportune times.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They have actually been like the secondary linebackers. They've been the weak link for the consistently on the defense from game 1, to be honest. Yep. And there hasn't been much improvement there. Even before Landon Collins was injured, I mean, he was struggling too. Like you said, Kendall Fuller's the only one pulling his weight at this point. And I could give Cam Curl an excuse because he was coming in. He is playing for Landon Collins, so he was, they were definitely picking on him. But
Right.
he did recover. He had that sack of Daniel Jones, which really we're surprised. I'm surprised Daniel Jones held on to the ball.
Me too.
So that was a great play.
It was.
But yeah, there's just a lot of work still that needs to be done, and the defensive line isn't consistent enough.
Right.
They have good weeks, and I would say the first half they played lights out, the defensive line, especially like Montez Sweat.
Yes.
But the second half, I didn't see the same production.
Right. I didn't either. And I didn't see it come from other guys either, and that's a problem. Like, we were talking about this on a previous show I was on Monday, and people were complaining and calling Chase Young a bust. Look, man, you got Montez, you got Chase, you got Kerrigan, you got guys up front in Allen, Payne. These guys are the guys. Sometimes you gobble up guys and others eat, and then sometimes you the guy that's eating. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a trade-off. That's why you have these guys up front. So, I used an older player, Dana Stubblefield, as an example, and you can even go with a modern-day player in Ndamukong Suh. These guys eat up space. Now, their job, everybody wants to get sacks, and want them to have double-digit sacks. Well, their job is to take up the middle and take up the space, eat up those blocks, and let everybody else eat. There's going to be times, though, when those everybody else's are eating, now they're going to make adjustments and say, hey, all right, we're not going to have help for Suh or Stubblefield. We got to get these guys and put these guys on the outside to stop these other guys from eating, and we'll take and pick our poison. And if he gets to us, he gets to us. If he doesn't, he doesn't, and that's good. But we can no longer help with this big-time player. And Washington has a lot of them. So it's a lot for a defensive or offensive coordinator to game plan to take just one guy away because they have so many guys up front that they have to account for.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yeah.
just on
just one more, I guess, comment to that. I don't agree that Chase Young is a bust. I think that the expectation is that he would be more explosive, I think. But at the same time, he's had a fairly good year considering the circumstances.
Absolutely.
And for me, I actually have a bigger issue with those guys who have been there consistently. Like Jonathan Allen.
Yes.
Like Jaron Christian.
Christian is on my list. He
right.
has made the list.
There's just some guys who've been on that team for consistently who just have not played to the best of their ability.
Right. And they need more of that, like what we saw from Cam Sims. Is this a Cam Sims that had a breakout game, or did they finally draw up some plays that he can take advantage of the defense and then use his abilities to get yards after the catch?
So I don't think it was a breakout game, so to speak. Cam Sims is a guy I've always liked. He's just not had good fortune. I mean, he's very lucky, honestly, to still be a part of the team because I remember last season when I first started covering Washington, the preseason, he had a terrible, terrible last preseason game. And I talked to him about it, and he was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to make the team after the way I played tonight. I mean, he took responsibility for it. He ended up getting cut, signed to the practice squad. Same thing this season. He got cut, signed to the practice squad. But he's always been a big playmaker, but he was not consistent. I'm thinking that, one, yes, they're able to draw up plays that favor his abilities. But two, I think in his third year, he's finally finding his stride. Because the talent and the ability was always there.
Definitely. I agree with you on that.
And he just didn't get his chance, to be honest, because, we didn't necessarily need him at wide receiver. But this year, with Antonio Gandy Golden out,
Yeah.
we need another option on the outside. Terry McLaurin cannot be it.
No. And
So
that's my
this
thing.
is opportunity.
I think that's how this offense is going to go. If they can get Cam Sims the ball, if they can get Logan Thomas to not drop the ball, which was uncharacteristic in that game, um,
Mm-hmm.
and they need someone, a third wide receiver, at least they need a second one to take away some things to give McLaurin some ability to have more one-on-one matchups.
Yeah, and I
Now the
think we
question,
saw that. I'm sorry, I
exactly.
just
No,
gonna
go
say I
ahead.
think we saw that because I believe having Cam Sims out there who was catching like 30-yard passes,
Hmm.
you had to then worry about him. And next thing you know, Terry McLaurin's getting a 68-yard touchdown.
That was beautiful. That was
That
beautiful.
was
The guy
beautiful.
works
That was a heck
hard.
of a catch and run.
And I'm just going to say, for the record, called it. Outside the Senior Bowl, me and Lake had a conversation. After the Senior Bowl, I made it clear that this guy was a guy that the Washington needed to get, that he was going to be something. Now, everybody else going to come out and try to take credit. But I said that right after the Senior Bowl. Don't want to hear it. Like, don't come to the table now talking about, oh my goodness. No, this guy has shown this talent before he ever even got to the combine.
Mm-hmm.
Even in his college career, it was there. So this is not a surprise. And it's fortunate that Washington has him on the football team. Now, we look at the quarterback position. You have Alex Smith, who's going to start this week.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have gone with Alex, or would you have gone to Dwayne?
Well, I think it would have made sense to go to Dwayne. But I think we had a pretty good idea that wasn't going to happen when Ron Rivera moved Alex Smith into the second backup quarterback role. And he was asked about why Alex Smith was second and not Dwayne Haskins. And once again, he said Alex Smith knows the system. And that seems to be what he cares about right now is quarterbacks that know his system.
Right.
Yeah, he seems to just care about quarterbacks and know his system. So while I think it makes sense to go to Dwayne, I just think when they made Dwayne the third string quarterback, they made a decision on his future with Washington.
See, I agree too. And now let's talk about, oh, he still got an opportunity. And I know some people buy into that, but look, this guy came out and said that they're going to try to win this trash dump division. Okay, like winning the division matters for a team that needs more pieces. But that's your philosophy all of a sudden. So, fine. And if we're in the business of winning football games, then, and it seems that Ron is equal opportunist, so he's going to give Alex some time at quarterback to start. He wants to see what he can do with a full week of practice and be prepared and go to start.
Mm-hmm.
My question now is, how long of a leash do you give Alex Smith? And is it telling, even if this season is out of reach, and they're not going to win this division, they're not going to make the playoffs if they don't win the division, and they don't play Dwayne Haskins, isn't that pretty telling? Because to me, if it's out of reach in 2 games and you can't win the division, Dwayne should be in, so you can see what you have.
It's pretty telling, and I think that if it just ends up that we don't win enough games to even win the division, I definitely think that they will put Dwayne back in. However, at that point, it still doesn't matter to me, and it still doesn't make me think that they're evaluating him for the future of the team, because if that's what they were going to do, let him play an entire season. Like to your point, who cares if you win the division when the top team in first place is 3 and something?
Yep.
So nobody's going to win this division convincingly. So let's see what we have for next year. If Dwayne played a whole season and was still trash, okay. you might have a case. But we still don't really know
We don't.
what we have in Dwayne Haskins, because last season he only played, I think, 6 games. And this season he only played 4. So we've only seen a couple games from him.
Right.
10.
And then we back. Yep. And then we were talking about his leadership early in the season. Then you want to go back to, there were some immaturity issues for sure. We all can see that.
And if something was interesting, I heard Ron Rivera's comments about quarterback Steve Montez. They protected him. I don't know if they put him on the reserve list. They put him on the list. He's protected essentially. But
Right.
if you heard Ron Rivera talk, he sounded very high on this young man.
I don't know why.
So,
I'm gonna tell you, I saw him at the Senior Bowl, and he does not impress me.
There's anything to make of it,
Right.
but it's interesting to listen to his comments.
It is
about him.
It is, and I'm sorry. I mean, no disrespect to that guy, but it is what it is. A spade is a spade. That unless he's developed over the last couple of years, then that's fine. But you know what? If he developed so much with a quarterback league with quarterbacks that are not a dime a dozen, then he could have found a starting job somewhere. So what are we talking about? Or he could have been on someone's roster as the number 2. So what are we talking about? Don't want to hear it. This is going to be interesting, them going into Detroit. I'll be very interested to see how all this works out, especially with Alex Smith at the helm. They have an opportunity. This team, Detroit, isn't that great, but we'll see what happens, because they have to go out and put together a complete football game, something they haven't done all season long.
Well, I'll tell you this. If they lose to Detroit, a team that they're not, now I'll be honest, Detroit isn't winless like the Giants were. But the funny thing is the Giants' 2 wins are against the Washington football team. They're only 2 wins of the season. But this is another beatable team. I mean, Matthew Stafford, he didn't play that great last week. Their run defense is not good either.
Nope.
They have their pretty strong weaknesses. So if Washington can't take advantage of that, then your schedule gets slightly tougher moving forward. So this is a game you want to win and need to win for morale and hope.
Absolutely. And after Detroit, they go and play Cincinnati. So it's going to be interesting. Pay attention and stay tuned, folks. It's going to be as interesting as it has been all year. When we come back, we're going to talk about the New Orleans Saints, and was their Sunday night performance who they really are? We'll discuss it when we come back. Well, the New Orleans Saints throttled, slashed, beat down Tom Brady, TB12, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they haven't looked like we expected from the start of the season. The first quarter of the season was up and down. I actually picked Tampa Bay in this game because I really thought after the first meeting they had, that really should have been Tampa Bay's game. And they managed to come in and just punch them in the mouth and relentlessly punch them in the mouth like Wims punched them in the mouth.
Yes. That was one heck of a punch.
It was. My question is, though, is this the New Orleans Saints that we're going to see going forward, or are they somewhere in between?
For the moment, I'm going to go with somewhere in between, because I'm not one of those types that gets really hype off of one huge win. I mean, they've had other wins, but they had their struggles up to this point, and I'm not sure yet, because Tampa Bay seems to be a team that the Saints own right now. So I want to see if they can keep this same energy at least 2 games forward. So this could be a turning point in the sense of their improvement, but we won't know until we see at least maybe 2 more games, and then we'll see if there's like a upward progression. But as of right now, did they play great? Yeah. And if this is the Saints going forward, now we see playoff Saints.
Exactly. And I agree with you on that. I don't take too much from this game. They were dominant on both sides of the ball. Defense hadn't been this dominant all season long. If you go back, you look at the scores of the previous games, just go back 4 games. They were 35-29 against the Lions. They were 30-27 against the Chargers, 27-24 against the Panthers. They were 26-23 against the Bears. The Bears. Trash. And then you come out and you throttle the Bucs. They got a division game against the Falcons this weekend, and a Falcons team who is really starting to turn their corner with being able to consistently play 4 quarters of football, not good football, but good enough to maintain and be in the game. They've struggled. We read them off. Bears, Panthers, Lions. You're somewhere in between there. You know what I mean? Exactly. I believe that you're never as good as your best game, but you're never as bad as your worst game. And I think this is a prime example for the Saints. What I'm looking forward to, though, is now you have Michael Thomas. They already had guys like Deontay Harris, Traquan Smith. You had Cooks at the wide receiver position. I mean, at the Tampa tight end position. And then you're using Taysom Hill as a wide receiver, tight end, back out of the field, plus those 2 backs. So they have a ton of weapons already. And now Thomas just takes away a lot of that coverage that these other wide receivers couldn't shake. And you saw that in that game. Deontay Harris reminds me of Steven Sims Jr. The last season, and the seasons under Gruden, where he was versatile in a lot of different ways of wide receiver screens, etc. That's where I think the difference is for this team. If they can put together that type of offensive onslaught, it's going to drastically improve the defense, because the defense is good, but they have their moments in the secondary, which they've had problems all season long with penalties.
That'll kill you every time.
Every time. So I think that's where we're at with this football team, and it'll be very interesting to see what they're going to do against a division rival, because this is where you decide whether you're going to seize hold of the division and start to get the momentum to go into the playoffs, or if you're going to be teeter-tottering like you've been all season, you're likely going to be one and done in the playoffs.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see, because also with Tampa Bay, I don't really know what's going on with them, but they struggled against the Giants.
Yes.
So they didn't come into that game off a good performance. So I'm actually surprised that they didn't do a little better than that.
Right.
So, yeah, we need to keep our eye on the Saints. This could be a turning point, but we don't know.
Yeah. And like I said, they face a Falcons team that, for the most part, in the last 2 games, have played a little better under Raheem Morris, defensively and offensively. We know that when these 2 teams get together, it doesn't matter about the records. You can throw those out the window. For the most part, these 2 teams really beat each other up, and they're going to face them twice in the next 3 weeks. So they face Atlanta in Atlanta. They go to the Broncos, and then they will have Atlanta come. Oh, actually, let me reverse that. They're going to face Atlanta at home, then the Broncos in Denver, and then they go to Atlanta before facing the Eagles. Then the Chiefs.
So they have a couple of they're going to be competitive games for the most part, except that I don't know how competitive the Eagles will be.
Yeah.
But they have a couple of competitive games coming up. So, like you said, those divisional games against the Falcons. Drew Lock seems to be finding his rhythm with the
Does.
Broncos. So I wouldn't consider that necessarily easy. I don't think it's going to be easy. But it's also an opportunity where, you know, if I look at those games, they can go 2-1. I'm not going to give them all three, but yeah.
They could. They very well could. So, Saints fans, it'll be something to watch. But you're riding high coming in this week with that throttling. And I said it on the Ghost Cast that I did for the Saints. That's a big win to sweep the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team that's going to be right up there when it comes time to win the division. So now they own the tiebreaker over them. And so now they just have to take care of business in the rest of the division. But when it comes to those two teams, I expect those two teams to be together at the end. And they own them right now. So
yeah, exactly. My only concern is, honestly, if they were to face Tampa Bay in like the playoffs, can they do 3 times? Like, that's challenging to beat a team 3 times. So
it really is.
I'm curious how that might pan out.
And that will be very curious because I'm really interested to see it too. 3rd times are never charms. Never charms. Ask Washington with Seattle.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That is the show, and we appreciate you listening and taking the time to listen to us. It's a blessing to have you guys on board, and without you, this isn't possible. But before we get out of here, what you got coming up, Carita? What's going on over there in Double Take?
Still writing my Double Take sports content. Hoping to get the podcast fired back up on that end, and then obviously Washington football, doing that for the 3-point conversion. So I've started putting my post games back out there. So follow me at Carita C. Parks or at DBL Take Sports to keep up with all my latest sports content. It's plenty.
This is where you're going to catch me at for now on this show. The writing is going to slow down for a little bit. If you want to catch me on the Ghost Cast, Saints Ghost Cast, that is on Apple products only. I do that, and I also do the Washington football team. It is under the old name on Ghost Cast, so you can catch those there. Those are short little snippet shows, just giving my thoughts on both teams. The writing has slowed down because I am planning on trying to move. Some who don't know that, the cat is out of the bag now. So we have been busy with that, so the writing has slowed down. But you can always hit me up on Twitter at NotBland21. I love talking shop with you guys, and that's the easiest way for me right now. So we thank you so much though for following us and looking at our work. And without you guys, it's not possible. It just isn't possible.
Not at all.
With that, you guys have a great rest or last day of the week, and enjoy your weekend. Go do something. Don't watch TV. Don't watch news. Go do something. Be with family, because at the end of the day, that's what's more important in the first place.
Very true.
And with that, we're going to be signing off. You guys have a good one.
Have a good one.